Those unmistakable opening chords of Purple Rain, still timeless after 40 years.
I never meant to cause you any pain.
From the halftime show at the Super Bowl to teaming up with Beyonce at the Grammys.
Purple rain, oh, crazy.
That electrifying mix of funk, soul, and rock and roll. Nothing more personifies the package that was Prince than the phenomenon that was Purple Rain. It's easy to make the case that you don't get modern music without the year 1984, when Prince and Purple Rain dominated and revolutionized the music scene.
He's like a meteor that just ripped through here, created havoc.
It was just lightning in a bottle.
It brought a really eclectic audience of people together.
The movie debuting 40 years ago this weekend. Prince was as complicated as he was creative, coming from a broken home. A child prodigy, writing his own songs. As he told Arsenio Hall, music was the only thing he thought he was good at.
When I was 16, I was completely broke and needed to go get a job, so I got the Yellow Pages out and I couldn't find one thing that I wanted to do. So I decided I was going to push as hard as I could to be a musician.
By 19, he landed his first record deal. The next year, dropping his first hit. But it wasn't just the music. It was the fashion, the dancing, the sexuality. It was the whole persona, trying to explain himself to Oprah.
I know you must perceive yourself as being different. Have you ever perceived yourself as being weird in any way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I understand everything's relative, not weird to me.
His soaring talent, bought in part out of torment, telling BET.
Getting teased a lot in school, and you know, early in my career, I tried to compensate for that by being as flashy as I could.
Flipping the world of music and pop culture upside down. His star continued to rise with the high-octane success of his album, 1999. But nothing compared to what came next. A skinny mustache and a ruffled shirt propelling the phenomenon that was Purple Rain.
That video was on MTV incessantly. Incessantly. You couldn't move without hearing that song. Like, you just can't emphasize how strange and forward-thinking and different, and also, at the same time, classic a lot of that Prince music was.
The album hit #1 and stayed there for 24 consecutive weeks.
Did you guys know that Purple Rain would have the cultural impact that it still has today?
There was a magic at that time, but I knew something was happening, and I knew that it was going to last for a long time.
Prince's partners in pop. The Revolution, a multicultural musical force. 2 women, 2 black men, 2 white men, all sharing the stage.
There were a lot of racial barriers, and he was determined to break those barriers and break cultural barriers.
He wanted to have a band that the white people could say, you know, oh, there's my Fleetwood Mac band, or
Sly and the
Family Stone.
Because of him, you see so many diverse artists out there. He opened those doorways.
He had a plan, and the Revolution was part of that plan. He knew exactly what he was doing. This is different. This is a revolution.
Earlier this summer, the Revolution headlined the annual festival dedicated to all things Prince, called Celebration. Thousands of fans taking over downtown Minneapolis.
You guys are literally getting the band back together. Is it like old times? Does it feel like old times when you guys were rehearsing?
Yeah. Yes.
Like riding a bike.
We're a family, so it definitely, it's a family reunion in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Here, singing Computer Blue, reprising their collaborations with Prince for new generations. Back in 1983,
Came into rehearsal and he said, guys, we need one more song. I have this little idea.
turning a country-tinged ballad intended for Stevie Nicks to the showstopper we know today.
Never saw a song to make you sad and make you empowered at the same time.
This is what it sounds like when doves cry.
The first release, When Doves Cry, beating out Bruce Springsteen's Dancing in the Dark for the #1 spot. Prince's first on the Hot 100. The next release, Let's Go Crazy, also hit the top of the charts, cementing Prince's stature in the mainstream.
You go back and you look at radio stations back then, it was very much, this is where you go to get your rock and pop music, which usually means music presented by white artists. And this is where you go to get Black music, which at the time was primarily R&B. And then someone like Prince comes out with this album, Purple Rain, and there were many places that it could live.
Purple Rain is where he pushes the, I'm completely new, I'm completely different. It was absolutely bananas in the moment, and it's still bananas now.
Is that yours?
The film, a musical, follows the kid who squares up against Morris Day.
Prince comes up one day and he's like, we're gonna do a movie, you know? And I'm like,
I heard you didn't buy it.
somebody says you're gonna do a movie. I'm like, okay, I've never done a movie before. So I'm like looking at him sideways. I'm like, okay.
You're Prince's rival.
Yeah. It had a lot of real life overtones, because Prince was very competitive. I'm very competitive. He had a great band. We had a greater band.
The movie musical grossed a surprising $70 million and cemented a complex dynamic between the artist and his fans.
One of my earliest memories was having my very young uncle sneak me into a movie theater to go see Purple Rain. If we're being honest, and I say this truly as a devotee of Prince, the Purple Rain film is not the best movie. It's just not. But what it is it's an incredible vehicle for the music that Prince not only performed, but also produced.
For Prince, pushing the envelope was simply part of the process. Telling Arsenio in 2014,
when you're 20 years old, you're looking for the ledge. You want to see how far you can push everything.
provocative moves, and those explicit lyrics left some listeners weary.
Met her in a hotel lobby, masturbating with a magazine.
That raunchiness in Darling Nikki sent Tipper Gore and the Parents Music Resource Center on a crusade against explicit lyrics, leading to the now ubiquitous parental advisory warning.
Darling Nikki was, by today's standards, probably just a drop in the bucket, but back in 1984, it felt very sexually explicit and talked about, sex acts and in a way that we hadn't heard talked about before so blatantly in music.
In 1984, the year Rolling Stone dubbed the year of pop, ushering music into another stratosphere. Culture Club's Karma Chameleon the Footloose soundtrack had people dancing. Lionel Richie said hello.
When doves cry, Prince.
But the year was purple. The album going on to win 3 Grammys and cleaning up at the American Music Awards.
Thank you very much.
Even collecting an Oscar.
I could have never imagined this in my wildest dreams.
Prince would continue to push boundaries, famously breaking out of his restrictive recording contract and briefly referring to himself as only a symbol. Then, unexpectedly passing from a fentanyl overdose in 2016.
We feel like we've lost a part of Minneapolis. It's like a gut punch.
I didn't believe it. He was just here Saturday.
Even now, all these years after he's even left us, it feels so weird to talk about him in the past tense because the music that he left is so present in our lives all these years later.
For those who can wait a year or two,
I understand we got Purple Rain the musical coming.
We just had the musical panel with sneak peek skits today, and it was just fantastic.
Have you gotten a chance to see it yet?
I've seen pieces because it's still in development. But that culture, I think, is going to live for years and years and years and years and years because of the musical.
His legacy remains indelible on the artists he shared the stage with.
His spirit keeps our wings up.
He's part of us. He's part of our DNA.
To others, following his lead.
That's why all of the great ones are just so in love with Prince. The past 4 Grammys that I've attended, his name comes up at least 2-3 times on the stage from contemporary artists.
I want to dedicate this award to Prince.
He was very revolutionary as a musician. He was creating music that had that sustainability, that had that it factor that was going to last long after he's gone.